Anuprita Dixit from IMK Architects. She is a design director at IMK Architects. Dixit completed her master's in rural, town, and regional planning from the University of Montana, Missoula, USA. After finishing her bachelor's in architecture from Sir J.J. College of Architecture in Mumbai, with over 30 years of experience, one of the guiding principles of her work is to help clients define their aspirations for the project and the aspirations of the end users. She adheres to the principle that it is essential to prioritize functionality and performance in optimizing construction and operational cost. So let's welcome Ms. Anuprita.
So I'll be addressing the objective of affordable housing for the poor through citizen participation under the Smart City mission in India. So basically looking at how we can empower slum dwellers to improve their lives through community participation, and I'll be looking at a case study in Mumbai. So looking at the population density per square kilometer, you already know that Mumbai is the most populated city in India, and it is the 9th most populous city in the world. In terms of population density, if we were to compare it with the other global cities like London and Singapore, London has a density of 5,327 per square kilometer. Singapore, on the other hand, is 9,154, and Mumbai has 20,634 people per square kilometer density. Now, this is the average density. If we were to look at only the residential component in Mumbai, the density goes up to 1,21,000. And if you were to look at only the slum component, the density goes up to 1,96,000 people per square kilometer. Now, as you all probably know, out of the total population of Bombay, slums contribute to about 42%, which is really, really high. So just a quick glance at what the existing conditions in slums are like. There's inadequate water supply, there's cramped housing, there's lack of recreation, there's typical units with no natural light or ventilation, there's lack of proper educational facilities, streets are crowded, and there's an absence of usable community spaces, there's unhygienic drainage, and then there's no defined market spaces. So what are the problems that are faced in Mumbai slums? The biggest problem is the continued proliferation of slums, and this happens because there's income inequality, lack of economic growth, urban migration, stringent municipal regulations and ever-rising land costs, poverty, shortage of affordable housing, and a steady increase in the real estate prices. The second problem is the unhygienic living conditions, which we already looked at in the previous slide. And the third one is the viability of the current redevelopment scheme, which is developer-driven and profit-oriented. So in 1997, the government of Maharashtra set up an SRA scheme to deal with the ever-growing slum population under the Slum Rehabilitation Authority. And the main features of this scheme are that it is a developer-led model. It promises free homes for each slum dweller family, but there is no involvement of slum dwellers in the decision-making process. So how it works is that there is this plot of land which is full of slums. It is taken over by the developer, and then he subdivides the plot into two unequal parts. The smaller one he uses for the free rehab component, and the larger one he uses for the sale component. Now, when this SRA was established, they promised to provide 10 lakh homes within a span of 10 years. But unfortunately, over the past 25 years, there's only been a delivery of 2 lakh homes. And currently, Mumbai needs almost 13 lakh homes to be provided to the slum dwellers to deal with this problem. So this is a plot that we have taken for the case study, which is an actual project that we had started doing in an area called Vadala in Mumbai. Here the plot, now looking at a typical SRA development, how it would work. So the plot is divided into 35% for the rehab units and 65% land area for the sale units. So the rehab component is housing 5,000 families in buildings of up to 22 floors. And the sale component is housing about 2,500 families in tall towers of about 56 floors. And this is what the development looks like. And you can very well see that, the sale component is very luxuriously accommodated, while the rehab units have been tightly plonked on the smaller plot. So this is that what you arrive at, and actually it is again a creation of a vertical slum. So picking them up from the horizontal plot and putting them into taller buildings and creating another slum in the taller buildings. So if you see in this section, there is a tall and narrow proportion of courtyards. There's insufficient light and natural light on the lower floors. There's restricted movement of the wind, so there is no proper ventilation. And there are very small community spaces provided only at the podium level. Also, the green open to sky RG spaces are very restricted. These are pictures of the current existing SRA schemes, and they are really horrific. And they, all these in unhygienic conditions have led to innumerable health issues, especially in the respiratory ailments. So coming back to the population density, for any SRA development, approximately the density goes up to about 3,23,000 people per square kilometer, which is really, really high. So we are suggesting that the government should adopt a community-led development of slums, should promote a community-led development of slums. And the strategy that we are suggesting is to have community participation, offer government incentives, and have a financial contribution by the slum families, and generate affordable homes for sale as against the luxurious homes that we saw in the previous slides. So what are the advantages of this scheme? One is it promotes a participatory approach. It empowers the women in a predominantly patriarchal society, because the women are at home. They tend to participate more in the redevelopment of their slums. All the needs and aspirations of the slum dwellers are addressed. A financial contribution by the slum dwellers is expected. Government incentives are offered. A corpus is generated to cover the future maintenance costs so that the slum dwellers are not immediately overburdened. There is direct control and transparency over the development by the slum dwellers. The timelines can be controlled by the community as against by the developer, who they tend to invest in various other projects, and then the current project gets neglected and then the timelines increase. They can opt to take extra area. So currently, as per the SRA scheme, they get 300 square feet homes. But in case the feasibility of the project indicates that they can actually afford to get extra area, then they can do so without having to answer to the developer. They can be aided by professionals and NGOs. They can retain the property rights, and there's a creation of affordable housing stock in the city. Now, what we are suggesting is that a democratic process can be adopted to derive at the design brief for this redevelopment. We've used this process in various redevelopment projects that we've taken up in the city, and it has proved to be really successful, for the simple reason that each and every member of the society feels that they have been heard, because you get them in one space collectively, and then you kind of note down each member's needs, give them a chance to voice their opinions, and then these are then prioritized using the 80-20 principle, which helps us to derive the design brief for this, which is actually unique to every community, because every community is different from the other. There are people in every slum pockets which come from different parts of the country, and therefore they are quite unique. Government incentives can be offered in the form of statutory, reduction in statutory costs, so even a total waiver in the statutory costs, and tax rebates. Contribution of the slum families could be in the form of, that amount that would cover the cost of construction of their unit, and personal loans can be offered to the slum dwellers at subsidized rates over a larger payback period. Now, the sale units that are generated, we are suggesting, should only be affordable homes. There should be no difference between the homes that we are providing for the slum dwellers and those that we are generating for sale. And these should be sold by the government through a fair and just lottery system, like the one that's currently being used by MADA. So this is what the development, just a suggested layout of the development, if we were to use, normal design principles without compromising on the designs just because they are slum dwellers. So here what we've shown is the entire plot of land can be used for housing both the sale as well as the rehab units. So there are 5,000 families accommodated in buildings of 10 to 16 floors. So there's variable heights of buildings, and there's a reason why we're doing that. The sale component consists of 500 families and could be accommodated uniformly over two top floors of all the buildings. And this is what the development looks like. And when I said variable heights of buildings, this is just to create more open space and more, recreation space for the slum dwellers who have been picked up from their current lifestyle on a single level. They've been picked up and they've been put into buildings, and hence to offer them open spaces at different levels, we've suggested doing this variation of heights. So what we arrive at is something like this. And where you can see that now the courtyards are proportionate, the heights of the buildings are varied, there are community spaces available at various levels. There can also be amenity floors created which can house various amenities. The cross ventilation of is assured through the wind flow through all these spaces properly. And all in all, it's a much better development that a slum dweller can move into. And there is an improvement in the quality of life. These are just some graphics to show how the community feel is retained, and that these community spaces are available, easily accessible at various levels through the development. So now with this kind of a development, if we were again to look at the population density, we have managed to reduce the density to about 225,000 square feet. 225,000 people per square kilometer, and we ideally would like to reduce it even further. It depends on the original density of the slum and the viability of the project if we were not to generate any sale units. So what we are suggesting is a 10-year plan for a slum-free Mumbai over the next 10 years. What the government can do is retain the original SRA scheme that is currently in effect, and continue with the same concepts that they are following, with probably little better regulation, which is regulating these rehab unit development so that their living conditions are slightly improved. And with the community-led development, what we are suggesting is there can be two scenarios. One scenario where 75% of the land is utilized for the slum dwellers. There is a financial contribution by the slum dwellers for the same, and affordable sale units are generated, which is equivalent in size, type, in terms of finishes, everything as per the rehab units. So this is one scheme, and the other is if the project feasibility allows, then we actually don't build any sale units on the plot. We build only the slum rehab units, and that will lead to a much better development, lesser densities, and a better quality of life. This also depends on the government initiatives and the way that the government can contribute and also gain from this scheme is they can provide site and services, statutory cost waivers can be offered, interest subsidies and registration charges waivers can be offered, and 10 to 20% of the land can be handed over to the government for public amenities. So in this case, the government also gains from this scheme. Yeah, so that is what I had to say.